there are regional accountability groups all around the country, but there wasn't one for Puerto Rico, and I saw a need, right? I noticed that there were a lot of people that were either investing on the island or interested in investing on the island, whether they live here in Puerto Rico or they live stateside, and they didn't have that community like the rest of Sub 2 has, which is, to me, the biggest value. Right, I didn't really see that here in Puerto Rico, and I noticed that there were people like Pedro, like JC, like yourself, that had figured out certain things, right? That had cornered certain aspects of the market, and we know that there's some very unique challenges here. So in my mind, I was like, well, if we can get all of these people together to share in their knowledge and their experience and be those types of go-givers and help each other, right? Then we're all gonna win.
So what got you this entrepreneurial mindset? Were you born that way? Was your father that way? How do you get there?
I think I got it from my grandfather.
Okay.
My father, very hardworking guy, but he was, or still is, even though he's retired now, he's of the mindset of, you get into a job, a career, you work hard for 20, 25 years, you earn a pension, and then you retire. That's the way he is, that middle class, hardworking, head down kind of guy. And my mom's the same way, just a hardworking woman. She still works now. She's, getting ready to retire in a couple years. But my grandfather was very much that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. He passed away too young, but he was always looking for opportunities. He would find a property, he would buy it, he would sell it, and people were like, "What do you
do that?
What are you buying that piece of land in the middle?" Actually, he bought a piece of land in the middle of Florida. My grandmother was like, "What are you doing that for?" He's like, "No, that's it right there. It's a good opportunity. Watch this."
Yeah.
And he had some businesses that he bought and sold. Small, like lower level kind of things. But he was just a very loving person, the kind of person that you would want to talk to for hours.
Right.
That person that you could really connect with, that and do business with.
Yeah.
Anybody could talk to him, and people love talking to him.
I love that you talk to him about that way. I find that people with that entrepreneurial drive and spirit are often what you would call givers, or like
Right.
they tend to be people that you do want to be around and that you want to talk to, because they're going to bring value. I mean, so you had like JC Morales at your event this weekend, and that guy's like the most hospitable guy on the planet, and he's running hotels, and like God has a calling for us all. For sure. I think this entrepreneurial spirit that lives inside some of us, it's a true driver, right? Like, so I just love to hear that when you speak with a lot of pride about your grandfather.
Yeah.
So that's great that you get to live on, or his spirit lives on in you. So very good. That's cool.
It was definitely a blessing, like you said, with not just JC, but you and Sam Singh and Pedro and all of the other speakers, my wife and her team from Finish Line.
They knocked it out of the park. They were great.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't say that just because she's my wife, but
yeah. But even their whole panel, like each one of them had something to say. They were all interesting.
Right.
I had no idea what a transaction coordinator was before they spoke, or that I needed one. And now I know.
Now, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's an amazing thing that you bring up, because I mean, how many years have you been doing real estate? Probably
26
20 something years,
thousands of deals.
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Number one, to be vulnerable enough to say, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time, and I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that I needed it.
They kept saying TC, and I finally said, "What's TC?" Transaction coordinator. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's something that can be super encouraging for people that are starting out, right? You talked about people like you and I that came up not having a silver spoon in their mouth. And I think there's too many people that have that feeling like, well, I can't do that because I don't know how to do it. Nobody has taught me. Nobody in my family has done that. I don't have the money. I don't have this. I don't have that. Yeah. They come up with so many excuses, right?
Yeah.
And that right there just goes to show you that you're never going to know everything.
Yeah.
Right. And there's no better time than now to get started in doing whatever it is that you put your mind to.
Yeah. I love that. So there's no better time than now to get started. You started your next thing, or your 3 next things, while you're still doing your first thing.
Right.
I mean, that's absolutely right, though. And that's what the heart of this channel is at, right? Like, so I think that many of the systems that we have are broken. Like the educational system is broken. Our taxation system is broken. Our government is broken. You can go through a whole list of things that people get trapped in.
Right.
And they believe that because their mother did it, their father did it, that this is the way that you have to do it.
Right.
And it keeps you stuck. You know, we live in the United States of America, so it's not like if you're middle class, that's a bad thing.
Right.
It's not. It's a really good thing. We're lower middle class is more wealthy than, 90% of the rest of the world, right? Yeah. But these systems keep us stuck in what we call the matrix or the rat race.
Right.
And stepping out of that and becoming an entrepreneur can give you eventually some freedom, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of work that goes into it and all
Yep.
of that. But I loved your conference that you put on. And, I go to those things, having done this for 26 years, looking for one thing that I can take away from it that's going to affect me positively moving forward.
Right.
So for me, transaction coordinators was one. And then Sam, when I saw him talk, I was like, well, that's why I'm here.
You're right.
I came to hear that,
Sam's a rock star, for
yeah,
sure.
and he was just completely low key. And,
Yep.
and I had met him before and given him a ride, and he's like, you don't remember that you gave me a ride? And I'm like,
He actually told me that story.
Yeah,
He was like, man, he saved me.
I'm like, I remember you, but I didn't know you were like that
Right.
up on the stage, killing it.
He's such a humble guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you didn't know that he was, such a rock star entrepreneur, that he was so intelligent, if you just met him in an airport and were just chit chatting, you would never know that he was so successful. You know.
And I watched him after, because I wanted to talk to him. So I sat there and I watched him, just hold court with the whole line full of the room. And everyone who asked him a question, he just lived into how can I serve, how can
100%.
I give. It was pretty special to watch.
Yeah.
I think that's, again, back to that entrepreneurial heart. That's where I believe entrepreneurs thrive, is when they're giving service and providing something of value to other people. So,
And that, as somebody who's new in this space, right? Like you said, I haven't been doing this that long. I still consider myself a newbie. That is something that I have seen is a constant amongst the most successful people that I have gotten the opportunity to meet so far.
Yeah.
People like yourself, like Jerry, Pace, Morby, guys like Sam and JC and Pedro, all of these guys, they're all go-givers. They're also giving. They're all, just very
like
very
I'm
humble.
gonna steal that, go-givers.
Well, I can't
like that.
I can't take credit for that. That's something that I got from Pace. He's
Okay.
the first person I've ever heard say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're so used to hearing the term go-getters, right? They're go-givers. They're so giving of their time and their energy, and like you said, exactly how you saw Sam there, just going above and beyond, pouring out into other people with, their experience and their knowledge, and just looking to help in any way that they can.
Yeah, even part of your wife's team, the big guy, I don't remember his name.
Jay.
Jay was standing there talking.
He's a great dude.
And he was just pouring into him, just
Yep.
like you said. So it was really special. What gave you the courage to be able to jump off in that way and go from a guy who's just starting out in real estate? And I'd really like to get back into your real estate origins in a minute, but I want to stay with this conference thing, because we just had it, and it was I really believe you guys provided the value, knocked it out of the park. How did you do that? How did you get the courage to do that? How do you land Jerry Norton as your headline speaker? I got a lot of questions for you.
Yeah, no, and they're great questions. I'll be honest. Sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, how did I get here? Like, this is nuts, And I don't know if you were in the room when I was giving the introduction when Jerry was about to speak. But when I started learning about real estate just a little over a year and a half ago, that's how I learned, was watching Jerry's videos on YouTube.
I think thousands of people could say that.
Right. And so to me, it's, I think about it every day. I'm like, man, this is crazy that he's the guy that I started learning from. Initially when you see people as successful as him on platforms like YouTube or whatever social media platform you may be on, a lot of times it feels like they're so far removed and they're so, untouchable from where you are, and when you think about it in the overall grand scheme of things, a year and a half is not that much time, and I'm like, now he's speaking at an event that, I put together, so it was definitely, amazing to me and such a blessing to be able to do that. But, to answer your question, as far as like where the courage from, to do that came from, I think that's just something that's in me. I'm not afraid to take chances. I'm not afraid to try something new, to do something new. When I see something that I want, when I have an idea, I get after it. And that's it. You know, it was about a year ago, the first time that I actually met Pace for the first time.
Okay.
And so
Here
it
on
was
the island?
no, it was actually at a meetup in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
It was like the spring of last year, maybe. And so, I'm in his mentorship program, and I had this idea before I met him that I wanted to start the regional accountability group within the Sub 2 mentorship for Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
There are regional accountability groups all around the country, but there wasn't one for Puerto Rico, and I saw a need, right? I noticed that there were a lot of people that were either investing on the island or interested in investing on the island, whether they live here in Puerto Rico or they live stateside, and they didn't have that community like the rest of Sub 2 has, which is, to me, the biggest value. Okay. Right. I didn't really see that here in Puerto Rico. And I noticed that there were people like Pedro, like JC, like yourself, that had figured out certain things, right? That had cornered certain aspects of the market. And we know that there's some very unique challenges here. So in my mind, I was like, well, if we can get all of these people together to share in their knowledge and their experience and be those types of go-givers and help each other, right? Then we're all going to win.